Welcome back to Corner Stories. Please enjoy this video and don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. And now let's get on to story 1. I 49F have a daughter 16F, let's call her Jane. Jane has always struggled with making friends due to her being incredibly shy and having social anxiety. Her father was also a mean drunk who would yell and throw things when he was drunk, which led to her being sensitive to loud noises and gave her a bit of separation anxiety. When she got to high school, she found a group of friends that she fell into. I wasn't particularly fond of this group, but Jane seemed happy, so I always encouraged her to go to hangouts and events with them. I even bought tickets for her and her best friend to see a band that they loved. I paid for them and the friend's mother was going to pay me back closer to the concert. The problem started last year when this group started fighting with one another. They were all constantly talking behind each other's back, having arguments at school and excluding each other from activities. This caused my daughter a lot of anxiety and led to her having panic attacks in the morning before school because she was scared to go. Because of this, she started missing a lot of school and fell pretty far behind on her schoolwork, which gave her even more anxiety. After a long discussion with my daughter, we decided that the best option would be to move to another school and have a fresh start. When she told her friends she was moving school, they kicked her out of the group chat and stopped answering her messages. This was obviously devastating for her. This is where I might be TAH. The concert is coming up and I still had the 2 tickets I bought. My daughter reached out to her ex-best friend and asked if she still wanted to go to the concert with her. The friend never responded, but I got a phone call from her mother saying that she wanted the ticket. I asked if they would still be going together. She said no, and that her daughter Shill wanted the ticket so she could go with some other friends who also had tickets. I told her in that case I would no longer be willing to give her the ticket because I didn't want my daughter to go by herself. The mother got really mad, saying that it was her daughter's ticket and it was not her fault that my daughter didn't have any friends. I made it very clear that since she hadn't paid for it yet, it was my ticket and I could give it to whoever I wanted. She called me an AH and hung up. Now I have 2 tickets and my daughter still has no one to go with, so she still doesn't want to go. Should I have just given the other girl's mom the ticket instead of having 2 tickets that N1 will use? Edit update. Thank you everyone so much for the kind words and support. I was second guessing myself and I don't know why. I just didn't want to make the bullying worse. Using the other ticket for myself is a fantastic idea. I thought of it, but I was nervous to ask because of a comment she made a couple weeks ago about how sad it was that the only person that wants to hang out with her is her mom. The concert is in 2 weeks, so I will make it clear that if she makes a friend at her new school and would like to take her instead, I will not be upset. I really like the idea of doing a girls' day, maybe going shopping to buy a nice outfit for the concert. Thank you for all the heartwarming stories about your own concert experience, and thank you to everyone who gave me advice. I saw a few people mentioning that I should put her in therapy. You're probably right. I offered before and she was very resistant to the idea, but I'll bring it up again and push a bit more. Thank you again. Some relevant comments. Wow, no, you are not the AH. Not even slightly. You have done the correct thing, removing your daughter from such awful entitled people. Maybe you should go with your daughter. I do things like that with my daughter. I think she values the time together. I know I do. It would be one thing if that girl's mother had paid for it, but she didn't. Imagine having the audacity to ask for a ticket still, without paying, and knowing they had a bad falling out. I don't even understand the mental gymnastics that led up to her asking. NTA, you should go with your daughter and have a good time. And then to say it's not my fault your kid has no friends. OMG, we'd be brawling in the front yard. I'm so mad an adult would speak that way about a child. Story 2. This is something of a wild story, so buckle up. I met my ex-FWB Amy 3 years ago and our relationship was never an easy one. Basically, she used me to help her with her work, and when I wised up she took me to bed. From then on we had an on and off relationship. Sometimes she would open up to me and be vulnerable, so I convinced myself that her bad girl act was actually a front to cover a more sensible person. She never wanted to commit through, even though I was willing to. I respected her decision and basically met her only for hookups, which she called me for 90% of the time. Last January I met a girl, Kate, and we started dating. A couple of weeks in, I broke things off with Amy, giving her the reasons. She seemingly took it with her usual aplomb, shrugging it off. That was not the end of it though. Sometimes she calls me, sometimes I bump into her. We work in 2 connected buildings but for different companies, and she has always something not so kind to say. She asks how things are going with my little girlfriend, made condescending compliments about her appearance, says she hopes things work out because she wouldn't want for me to come back crawling to her, and so on. And every time she likes to invade my personal space while doing so. I do my best to be polite but also cold with her, but this won't discourage her from trying to get a reaction out of me. I talked about this with my sister and she says that Amy is obviously pissed about the situation. She wanted to keep me in her back pocket and probably will try something to break my new relationship up. I don't know what to do honestly. I fear that any action might provoke a reaction out of her. What can I do in this situation? Relent comments. Hard cut her off before she starts making trouble between you and your girlfriend. Block her, ignore her when you see her, and if you have to talk to her for work then be professional and bland. And be sure to let Kate know what Amy is doing. Once you stop giving Amy the attention she's clearly craving, she may escalate and Kate shouldn't be blindsided just in case. Stop talking to her. Walk by without acknowledging her, block her on your phone, socials, etc. She can't make your life hell if she isn't in it. If you see her at work, go the other way or just walk by. Story 3. I 20F met this guy 21M off of Tinder. We were only talking for one day before we planned a date for the next day. We talked for a bit on the app but after that, we moved to texting. The first date went amazing, it was about 6 hours and we found that we had a lot in common. He and I instantly clicked and he commented that he was going to delete Tinder because of how amazing the date went, which he did end up doing. We got on the conversation topic of social media where he told me he didn't have any because he didn't like the fakeness of it. As well, he went by a different name than his real name because he didn't like his real name. After the first date, when both of us got home, we called for another 2 hours just getting to know each other and we planned for us to hang out after I got off work the next day. All we did was get food and hang out in the car, and at the end of that date, he asked me to be his girlfriend. I felt like this was moving very fast but I said yes regardless. The next day he asked me to come over to his place where he said he lived alone to watch a football game. He made a comment that he took over the lease and the previous owner left a lot of their stuff there, which is why they might be girly stuff at his place. I didn't think much of it. That night he tried to get me to stay the night and I said I should go home because we just met. Over the first month, I was over at his place a lot and we had quite a few sleepovers. I noticed a few things when I was over, like long hair in the shower, him hiding stuff that I would leave over, a piece of toilet paper with lipstick on it, and when I would bring this up to him he would have a good reason or would just push it off. He and I would talk non-stop. He was talking about me moving in, a future together, that I am the most amazing person he's ever met, and even sharing our locations. Nearing the end of the first month, he broke up with me because of very small disagreements we would have and his mental issues. Not even 2 days later we were back together because we both felt something there. This is where we said, "I love you," which he was trying to say to me for about 2 weeks before, but I told him I wasn't comfortable with that because those words are really serious to me. For another month we were great, but I was allowed over at his place because he said he wasn't comfortable with it, which I somewhat understood, but slowly I started to try to convince him more to allow me over because I live outside of the city and with my dad. He met my family and my friends, we spent New Year's together and did Christmas late. I never met any of his friends or family, which I found a little weird because he would pressure me to meet mine, but again I pushed it off. Finally, after being together for another month since the first breakup, he allowed me back over to his place, but that only lasted a week. I was there for about a week straight because he wanted me to, but on the last day I was there he was very cold to me, which was unusual, and I ended up going home later in the day instead of staying the night like planned. After that, he would barely reply to my text, and then he reached out and just said he was going through a lot mentally. I told him I would be there for him and all he would need to do was communicate that, so I didn't feel left in the dark. After this, we were still together, but he would be on and off texting me and seeing me. I kept telling him over and over again that I was there for him and willing to give him space, but he just needed to communicate that to me. Finally, right before Valentine's Day, I texted him that I wanted my stuff back and he officially broke up with me. I gave him a hoodie I made him because I wasn't going to use it, and we agreed that we would still talk and that we were committed to each other, just weren't official. We were still texting and he was still saying that he loved me and calling me babe and baby. We would still see each other. Then I brought up me staying at his place because we were planning on going out for my birthday, and since I would be drinking I would need a place to stay. He ghosted me again for a few days. This is where I download Tinder because I was done with his games, but I wasn't really on it. I drunk texted him on Friday, and the next day he came over to my place and we made plans to hang out on my actual birthday. When he was over he talked to me about being on Tinder and that I should delete it, that if I were to see anyone else he would stop seeing me, and that he didn't plan on downloading it anytime soon. Fast forward a bit, the day before my birthday came and I was double checking our plans and he cancelled on me. This was my last straw. I said I was done and reamed him out because he didn't love or care about me like he said he did. Later that day I found him under a different name. I called him out and he wasn't giving me much back. My friend had been commenting about posting him to a Facebook group called, "Are We Dating the Same Person?" for a while, so I did. I found out that the day before he had come over to my place for the last time that he saw another girl earlier that day where she broke it off with him after only seeing him for a week. That's not even the best part. The next day after I posted him I found out that he has had a girlfriend almost the entire time. They have been dating for 2 years. I was able to get a hold of her and we were on the phone for about 2 hours just connecting the dots to everything. The apartment that he said was his was actually both of theirs. When we first started dating they were broken up, and when I was allowed over there for the second period they broke up again, but both times got back together very fast. The car that he was driving to come to see me and had picked me up in was hers. He had Instagram the whole time but had me blocked so I could never find his account because it had his girlfriend on it. The sweater I gave him for Valentine's, he gave her for Valentine's. I don't have my ears pierced and he gave me earrings for Christmas. It turns out she does have her ears pierced. They have broken up since, but I've heard that she wants to get back together with him. Also, other girls that he's been trying to see have seen the Facebook post and have stopped talking to him. Sorry for the long story. I know there were tons of red flags and honestly I haven't mentioned half of them to try and keep this shorter, but he is finally out of my life and I'm so thankful for that. Relevant comments. She would be a fool to get back with him. I hope you blocked him. It was right in your face the whole time and you just ignored it. All you can do is learn from this experience TBH and move on. Word of advice: actions are more important than words. If the actions don't back up what they say, believe the actions over the words. This guy sounds like a giant red flag who shouldn't be with anybody until he gets his shit worked out. You gave him way more leniency and chances than he deserved, but all you can do now is learn from it and remember you deserve so much more respect than he gave you. Tolerate no bullshit. OP's response: I know, I just had the rose-colored glasses on, but this relationship taught me a lot from how I should be treated, cause I do have to give him credit for treating me really well the first month, but also after that the signs to look for and should have seen. I plan on never being put into this type of situation again. Story 4. I 23M ended my relationship with my sort of GF 24F last night. For some context. We started seeing each other in May of 2023. She was in a poly relationship at the time and we were supposed to be just a simple FWB. Over time we got close and caught feelings, and by August she had broken up with her ex who she had been with for almost 7 years, moved in with me, and we had both started new jobs. It was good for a while. I lost my job in November and things went downhill from there. Now, I admit I'm not perfect. I've done some shit that inexcusable that she should have left me for. And she didn't. She is not solely to blame for it not working, and neither am I. But I'm take responsibility for it. For a note, I am very traditional. My views and how I view relationships. She isn't. At all. She wants to be a housewife and get married, but that's as far as she goes in the traditional route. Anyways. Our main problem has always been male friends. Me being me. I was willing to compromise. I said, okay, fine, you can have the male friends you already have, but if they speak to you a certain way, flirt with you, anything of the sorts, they're gone or I am. That's just a scenario I don't want to deal with. Fast forward, this dude is comparing her beauty to a painting and she says he's not flirting, it's just how all their friends talk, turned into a huge argument and she didn't talk to him for a while until things started going downhill. We were arguing a lot. She stopped doing the little things that matter and I kept doing them. BC, I wanted things to work. January of 2024. She is in the process of moving back in with her mom under the pretext that she likes having her own space and she thinks it will help us. Which there's nothing wrong with wanting your own space. But I knew it wasn't going to help. I saw it coming a mile away. A week later she ends things with us. We agree to go back to talking and try and work on things. When she broke up she said a reason was because she can't hang out with friends. And by this she means her male friends, and specifically her ex who she had just broke up with, and said she wants him to stay over her house overnight for his birthday. I told her I was not comfortable with that. She did it anyways and was pissed drunk till 5 a.m. We had plans the next day and she tried canceling, so I ended things over text. We kept seeing each other since then. A week after that though I find out he stayed over again, but she just didn't tell me. 2 weeks ago from this post we both went on each other's phones and saw she was actively messaging new guys. She said nothing happening, but the message I opened, bro, was full flirting, so I don't believe it. In my end I reached out to a few girls I knew on Instagram, but I never had a conversation. We made a promise the next day that until we are good or we figure out what we're doing, neither of us will speak to other people or add anyone new. Fast forward. We decided to go on a 2-week break. Minimal contact 4 days ago. I don't like the idea of it. Doesn't make sense to me. It never works. Last night, she mentioned her ex may be coming over to game with her and her brother. We had an argument previously in the day about the sleepovers, still specifically in the same room. So I decide to go to McDonald's. I have to drive by her house to get there. And I see his car. So I asked before I leave, when we were all good after our argument, if she wanted to talk for a bit before I went to bed. She said, "No, that's okay, we'll talk soon." And I'm like, okay. Odd. So I left. Saw him there. And she just kept leaving me on read. I don't care if we were on a break. You're not going to have your ex of 7 years at your house. And give him your full attention and not talk to me. So I told her we were done and unadded her on Snap and IG. I don't blame her for us not working. I blame myself. For wasting her time and making her sacrifice so much, because if I could have stood on my principles better from the beginning and my boundaries, this entire relationship may not have happened and I wouldn't have hurt her. That being said, I don't regret anything and I do love her. P.S. Anytime I tried setting boundaries, I got the classic "you're controlling, insecure, act like a teenager" responses. So yeah, and this is where I'm going to end it. Please feel free to comment and share your thoughts. Thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to connect with each other in the comments below. Until next time, be kind, be curious, and I'll catch you in the next video. Corner Stories signing off.